welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today by the owner, the operator of Fantasy Guides and FantasyGuides.com, Stephen Rippey, as well as fellow Fantasy Guides contributor and spreadsheet wizard. I'm switching it up on you this week, AJ. AJ Cleaver is with us as well, and we are ready to dive into Week 5. Every single matchup other than Thursday night. Sorry, Thursday nighters. But every single matchup other than that, we're going to dive into it. Who should you start? Who should you sit? DFS plays, maybe even some betting talk as we try to traverse every single matchup. Steven, you've been traveling, but I know you're still locked in and ready for this.
Hey, I am. Last week was my best week, Andrew, as far as predictions, and that was while making them on an airplane. So I think this stuff gets more predictive. We kind of start to know which defenses aren't very good, which quarterbacks are playing well, which offensive lines are good, which are bad. So this all helps, Andrew. It's all more data points.
All right, we're going to look into the budget of putting Steve on a plane every week so that he can hit. Like, your report card was very impressive this week, young man.
You know what? I fly Frontier a lot just because where I used to be from, Colorado, they had a lot of Frontier flights. But I couldn't do that this time, so I did what was the airline? American Airlines. They have Wi-Fi, which usually
Frontier barely gives you an airplane.
They barely give you a seat. I love it's always insulting because they do that spiel where they talk about you're reclining your seat, and there's no recline button on a Frontier flight. Like they still go through the spiel, and it's like I don't even have that as an option. But yeah, seats are even bigger too. So go American,
living the life. AJ, last set of games before you're a married man. You ready to give that all up?
Yeah, luckily the fiance, she likes her football. She enjoys getting together with all of our friends every Sunday. So luckily football is to stay, even though I won't be a single man anymore.
No shade at Christina. She's a great gal. She puts up with us very well.
Yeah.
All right. We got to get into this, though, gentlemen. As much as everyone likes hearing about our lives, they don't. Let's get into the football talk of it all. Again, every single matchup, we're going to go over them. If you're sitting there saying, man, that's a really long record time, I'm over it, go check out the notes. I'm putting in the chapters. Skip ahead, see what you want to see, and ignore the rest of our nonsense. But, AJ, what is our first matchup and, of course, our first fun fact?
All righty. First, we have the Jets taking on the Vikings. Minnesota is favored by 2.5.
Sorry. I was looking at Bucks Falcons. My bad. Keep going.
Oh, you're good. The over-under is 40.5. So obviously Sam Darnold taking everybody by storm this year. Looking back at his past years, the most touchdowns that he's thrown has been 19, which was in 2019. And this year he's on pace for 46 touchdowns and only take 7 games to meet his record from 2019.
Andrew, is the other, how do you say that expression? Is it the other shoe? Is the other shoe going to drop? Are we going to see Sam Darnold turn back into a pumpkin, or is this for real?
Weirdly, you would think that the Jets defense is going to be the one that does it to him, but the Jets defense has not been that great. They're okay at stopping. They're not okay. They're good at stopping the pass, but they sell out to do it, and that's what the Vikings want you to do, and then they're going to run and use play action off of it. So I actually think this week we will see the Sam Darnold Cinderella experience continue, but dude, at any moment, he's kind of like Brock Purdy was when he was first playing for the Niners, and everyone was like, is he good or not? He's throwing a lot of interceptable balls. They're just not getting picked off. But heck, when you got Justin Jefferson, throw it anywhere, and it will work out.
Well, here's the thing. The Jets, on paper, it looks very bad. PFF gives it a 0, Andrew, in their matchup grade for Sam Darnold. And I don't know if you remember Carolina Panthers Sam Darnold, but he was good for 4 weeks, and then it completely fell apart. I trust this coaching staff more. So I'm sort of buying into this, but I'm still hesitant. I'm not ready to fully embrace the Sam Darnold experience as being a good experience. But as far as the Jets go, so the Jets did do pretty well against San Francisco week 1 as far as slowing them down a little bit. But they also then played Tennessee, New England, and Denver, which I think we would all agree are pretty pathetic offenses. So I think this is a much bigger test for them. I do think it's going to be a little bit of a defensive battle, but Sam Darnold, I've got him more as like a high-end quarterback too, so it kind of depends on your other options. Maybe as we go through, we can do a name game. He's a QB2 option for me. Aaron Jones, you can't sit him. He's my RB9. And then obviously you're not sitting Justin Jefferson. I think the real question is, are you playing Jordan Addison, Andrew?
I'm willing to throw it out there as an option. He looks good. Sam Darnold looks good. And they're obviously going to try to throw their best corner, Sauce Gardner, over on Jordan Addison. And I think that could lead to success Sauce Gardner's going to be on Justin Jefferson. So that could lead to success for Jordan Addison. They play a ton of man defense. So if Addison can get some work on their second corner, I actually think Addison could sneak out a touchdown, as he always seems to do. He's a touchdown fiend.
I do have him in the flex in one league. Actually, it's between him and Josh Downs. I haven't fully committed yet, but I think he's startable depending on your format. And then on the other side of the ball, Jets, you're obviously starting Breece Hall. I'm not overly worried about last week's game, 3 points against Denver. Denver's been sneaky good on defense, and that game was just ugly. The whole thing was ugly. Aaron Rodgers, have him as a back-end QB2. You can start him in Superflex leagues, but you should not be starting him in one quarterback leagues. I'm curious to see how this goes. This is, playing one of his former division rivals. Wonder if he'll play a little bit better because of that. He's played in this dome quite often, so I'm not completely out on Rodgers this week. It's hard to start him over a lot of the better options, but Minnesota is giving up the most completions and passing yards per game this season. Garrett Wilson, though, I love. I think Garrett Wilson finally finishes as a wide receiver 1 this week. Minnesota giving up the most yards and receptions to wide receivers. And I also like Allen Lazard is more of like a deeper flex play in this one.
I'm questioning the Garrett Wilson stuff. A lot of people are calling out this is the breakout performance for him. The Packers, Jordan Love ended up tearing up the Vikings defense when they were just in prevent basically the entire second half. I don't know. I just don't see why this is going to be any different for Garrett Wilson. It's a hard matchup. The Vikings have been absolute stalwarts trying to stop them. You're going to see a lot of zone defense. That's what the Vikings do, and I think Garrett Wilson's not great against zone defense. I actually think Garrett Wilson stays in his shell for this game, but man, week 7 after that week 6 bye, he gets the Lions, the Rams, the Colts, the Jaguars. That is when we're going to see the Garrett Wilson train take off. I think this one can stay and make Garrett Wilson a buy low after this.
Well, you're still playing him. You're just saying you don't see the big game happening.
100%. People, yeah. I've just heard more than just yourself say, "Oh, this is the one." The Vikings, they're ready to. They're a susceptible defense that have good corners. Doesn't matter. Zone chaos. Brian Flores throwing everything at you left and right like a fury. It's not easy.
Yeah, I can tell you are all in on Flores as the defensive coordinator.
He's crazy.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. Oh, and then Tyler Conklin, I actually like him this week also as kind of a desperation tight end play.
Yeah, weirdly, I looked at it, schedule adjusted, the second best matchup of the week, which is just strange to me. I don't know. I guess the Vikings don't care about tight ends.
Yeah, I guess not. And then I guess that's it. That's what we can move on now to the next one.
Tight end lives matter. Start you some Conklin if you need to. I might have to, and it makes me very sad. AJ, on to the next one.
Alrighty, next we have the Panthers Bears. The Bears are favored by 4. Over under is 40.5. And this week we could have seen both Bryce Young and Caleb Williams, the previous 2 first overall picks, face off against each other. But sadly, we don't get to see that spectacle because Bryce Young decided to suck.
How terrible of a quarterbacking game could this have been with the way Caleb's playing and the way Young's playing? Honestly, there was a chance that Young actually outplays Williams in that circumstance, and that could have been chaos infused. But instead, we'll see Andy Dalton outplay him.
Yeah, I just don't get the whole thing. I get like a coach trying to save their job, but man, what's like? Are they going to just wait till Dalton starts sucking and then be like, all right, now we'll go back to Bryce Young after he's learned his lesson?
He's in timeout. He has to learn his lesson. He's got to face the corner. I mean,
Gotcha.
He fits in the little kid timeout chair, so it's perfectly made for him.
Okay. All right. Well, on the Carolina side of the ball, Andy Dalton, I'm not playing him in this one. At Chicago. Chicago's been pretty good on defense, giving up the fewest fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. And, checking that. Yep, that is correct. And then Chuba Hubbard. He'll get the volume, and it's not a bad matchup. They've actually given the 10th most fantasy points per game Chicago has to the running back position, and he's just getting tons of volume, and he's looked good. I've been kind of a Chuba doubter for the past couple years, but I have watched him this season and he looks pretty good. So I'm in on him. On paper, not a great matchup for Deontay. Don't care. I've got him as my wide receiver 14. I'm probably not ready to throw Leggett out there though. I think this is a tougher matchup for him. But yeah, I like Chuba and Deontay, Andrew.
Chuba Hubbard is an every week must start until Jonathan Brooks comes back and firmly grabs a role. Even the first week Brooks is back, I'm still starting Hubbard. He's averaging 24 opportunities a game, and that's a lot of passing work along with running the ball really, really well. Dave Canales came in and he said, I would like good offensive linemen to pound the absolute crap out of the football, and then whoever's playing quarterback can play quarterback. And that's what they did, and Hubbard, huge, big time Devin Singletary vibes here for Chuba Hubbard. Like, can you see he's incredibly mid. No one's excited, yet he keeps producing in some sort of way. Maybe Chuba Hubbard can take the throne as the best running back in the NFL.
The new James Conner.
Oh, I can see it.
Doesn't he kind of have that feel?
It's again, same vibe, underrated, kind of mid, except for I think Connor's better than both those guys.
Yeah, although I do think once Brooks comes back, I don't think he's going to go away. I think it's going to be a little bit of a headache for both of them once Brooks comes into the fold.
To talk on Johnson real quick, this is actually a really tough matchup for Johnson, but it should be pointed out he's averaging 36% of the targets since Andy Dalton took over, so it literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, you never bench 36% of the targets. I don't care who it is.
Well, what happens when Anthony Richardson's throwing them and he only throws 10 times a game? We'll get there.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, Caleb Williams. I think things are trending up for him. Not ready to throw him in my lineup. I got him as a QB 18, but wouldn't be surprised. Carolina giving up the second most passing touchdowns in the league, so I wouldn't be surprised if he does something in this one, but I'm not really. I kind of want to watch it happen on my bench or maybe on the waiver wire.
Did you see the news that I don't know if it was Shefty or Rappaport tweeted out and said the Bears players have gone and talked with Shane Waldron saying he needs to be more aggressive? And it was like Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams. It might have been DJ Moore. So the players are going up to Waldron and saying, please, we beg of you, be better. Waldron, everyone sees it, even the rookie.
Interesting. Well, hopefully we see him be better this week. DeAndre Swift, Andrew, last week, I almost had a perfect game last week. I almost recommended Swift as a start because the matchup was so good, but it was just too scary. I got chicken. I was scared, and then he goes off, has a good game. This is another one of those matchups where on paper it looks like a really good game, and then we saw him do it last week. So I'm ready to start DeAndre Swift. I've got him as a mid-range RB2 this week. RB2. Carolina giving up the second most fantasy points, the third most touches. They're giving up receptions, touchdowns, all of it to running backs. CFF likes the matchup. Are you in on Swift this week?
He scares the ever-living bejeebies out of me. Like, there is zero indication that he was going to go off that game. He hadn't exactly been playing against stout defensive units against the run prior to this, so I thought maybe he'll just keep sucking. Well, if he gets a 33% target share like he did last week, maybe I'm more in on him.
Yeah, 7 receptions he had last week?
Yeah.
Now that won't happen again. That was just a kind of a fluke, random. I don't think he had more than 2 receptions in any of the previous games. But here's the thing I will say about Swift. He's not a terrible running back. I mean, we were just touting this guy, Andrew. I can find the post where you were talking about how good DeAndre Swift was. Just a little over a year ago.
He's a very unique runner. We'll say that.
I don't think that's what your post said. I'll have to find it. But you thought he was at least he was an upgrade over Miles Sanders. Which
that is a fact. Maybe that still stands.
I agree with that. But I don't think he's awful. I think he's okay. And so I think he's startable in this one. And the wide receivers, man, Keenan Allen did me dirty last week. All I needed him to do was catch 4 passes. For a prop bet I recommended, he could only catch 3. I think it's looking like he could be washed. DJ Moore didn't have a great game either. I'm willing to start DJ Moore this week, though. I got him as the wide receiver 18. Keenan only as a flex at this point. It's getting a little bit scary. I'm a little bit worried. At least he was getting the targets week 1. He didn't get the targets last week. That's what makes me nervous. So yeah, the main 3 that the Swift and Moore are the only ones I feel super confident about. The other guys kind of depends on your matchup.
Keenan came back and played 85% of routes. I think he'll bounce back more in this one. The Panthers play a crap ton of zone, too high zone. That's where we see Keenan Allen eat. And that's actually where they've been most susceptible. This actually is not a phenomenal matchup for Caleb Williams, despite the Panthers defense being overall bad. The only good player they have on that defense is outside corner J.C. Horn, who's going to find his way on a more, not all the time, but it's never going to find his way over to Keenan Allen. And that's where the Carolina Panthers have been most susceptible, is to short passes. Hello, Keenan Allen. Fat Keenan, hot dog Keenan, big boy Keenan, ready to run 2 yards, turn around, and catch the ball.
It's kind of what I thought was going to happen last week. It did not happen, but I hope you are correct, Andrew. Oh, and then I forgot to mention Cole Kmet. I have him as a back end tight end one. I think this is a great matchup for him. So yeah, I'm fine getting Cole Kmet in my lineups this week.
We saw his utilization just absolutely spike. Waldron, if hats off to you, the one thing you realize is Gerald Everett's washed and's bad, and you're playing Cole Kmet a lot more because he's been good. 21% target share. You can start Cole Kmet weekly until you get really sad watching the Bears offense, then you might stop.
Yep. All right. What's the next one, AJ?
Alrighty. Next, we have the Ravens versus the Bengals. The Ravens are favored by 2.5. We have our tie for highest over under at 49.5. Head to head, Lamar Jackson is 4-1 against Joe Burrow. He rushes for 50 plus yards in all those games, and he doesn't have any rushing touchdowns though.
I feel like he runs for 50 yards in every game that he plays in, at least.
How does anyone stop him? How does he not rush for? If he wanted to rush for 100 yards every game, he could. No one can stop him.
When he does decide to take off, it's just you pencil in minimum 10 yards, and he does it about 5 times a game. So it's like a floor of 50 rushing yards.
I need him to go talk to Anthony Richardson and just teach him his ways.
Andrew,
please.
Yes, he should. They are a little bit different. They're a little different. Anthony Richardson's a little more Cam Newton-like, but Andrew, I got a question. So in one of my leagues, my hometown leagues, it's a best ball league. We switched it because we couldn't ever remember to set our lineups.
You're lazy, I get it.
Yeah, we are lazy, or we got other stuff going on. But so I drafted Lamar Jackson, and at the very end of the draft, I was like, "Oh, this is best ball. I should probably take a couple more quarterbacks since you can get the spike weeks." Even though I had Lamar, so I have Justin Fields and Geno Smith because it's a pretty decent depth on our rosters. Would you trade both of them? Try to get something? Just trade one of them? What's the strategy there?
You're wanting to trade away both of your backups for something?
Yeah. Or would you? Yeah, like I've got Lamar. Although he didn't start last week, I think it ended up being Fields ended up being my starter.
Well, if you have incredibly deep benches, you definitely need to keep at least one of those guys. But you totally could. I think you should trade away at least one of those guys.
Yeah.
Quarterback is bad this year.
I put them on the block, both of them, and so far nobody's said anything. But that's pretty typical for this league.
You're telling me the league that has to go best ball because no one will set their lineup isn't trading? No one cares about your league, Steven. Get back to this game.
All right. Start Lamar. Start Derrick Henry. It's so fun to watch Derrick Henry. You know what, Andrew? I will admit, I was a little bit sad. It kind of messed with me that he didn't get 200 rushing yards and tie the record, I think. He's either break the record or tie the record for most 200-yard rushing games in his career. He was 1 yard short last week. Kind of bugged me.
Someone just go in and stat correct. Just change it. No one will
ever
know or care.
Do what needs to be done. And, if he didn't fumble at the 2-yard line, he'd have had a touchdown and 200 yards. So
brutal. He only had 199 yards and a touchdown. He stinks. 2 touchdowns. You stink, Derrick Henry.
Now, because I was ridiculously high on Derrick Henry this offseason, which is looking pretty good, I have him as my RB2 this week, which is higher than consensus, but I don't think it matters. You're not benching him anyway. It's a good matchup. I think he's going to run over the Bengals. Zay Flowers. I am worried about Zay Flowers. I do like the player, but in games where Henry's going off, I mean, he's just not going to get any targets. So I still got him as a start this week because I think this game will be competitive. There's a high over and under. Got him as a back-end wide receiver too, but I'm a little bit nervous about him. I have to admit that. But I am just avoiding the tight ends in this one. Sorry, Mark Andrews, I can't play you.
I just don't think that they're going to get out to 30-point leads on teams just like they did the last 2 weeks. This defense is definitely worse than last year's, like considerably worse than last year's. So they're not going to keep getting out to these leads. Derrick Henry will not start every game with an 85-yard rushing touchdown or whatever the heck that was. I think Zay Flowers, he is insanely involved. The 25% target share. They will not throw the ball 12 times every single game. Zay is a good start I will point out, specifically against teams that play a lot of man versus zone, he's actually been incredibly average versus zone defenses and incredibly good against man defenses. Unfortunately, the Bengals play a lot of zone, so that kind of stinks. But you can still start Zay every single week. I don't think that this is a divisional game. AJ, AFC North. Disgusting, right?
If they want to just fight at the bottom of the barrel and let the Steelers stand first, I don't really care.
These teams hate each other. They play each other well. This is in Cincinnati. This is my upset of the week. I know it might be, whoa, we're calling the Bengals to upset the Baltimore. But this would be a 5.5-point favorite on the spread if it was a neutral site. The Bengals are at home. I really think they might upset them. I think Zay Flowers will have to get more involved than he normally is. And we've seen what teams have been able to do against the Bengals cornerback room.
Yeah, I still think Zay could be a little bit of a buy low because, like you said, I think this game will be competitive. I think he can play well in this one. And then they have Washington and Tampa Bay over the next 2 weeks. So I think Zay Flowers is in for some good games.
Oh, let me interject real quick. I'm sorry, I flipped that. The Bengals are the 10th highest man defense. They play the 10th most man defense. Wow, I can't speak. So this actually is a good matchup, especially chasing the over-under for Zay Flowers.
Yep, like him this week. Moving over to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, I like the matchup for him. Kind of the reasons you just said, Andrew. Baltimore's defense has not been as good. They're giving up the third most passing yards per game. We saw Dak Prescott a couple of weeks ago just completely torch them. I think Joe Burrow could do it. He's looked better this year than he did last year. Jamar Chase, love him this week. I actually have him as my wide receiver 1 this week, which is a little bit bold, but regardless, you're not sitting him. Of course you're not sitting him, but I just think it doesn't matter. When you get to like the top 3 guys, someone like Jamar Chase can go off at any moment. Zach Moss, I'm a little worried about, though. I'm worried about both running backs in this one. If you have better options, I would put these guys on your bench. Baltimore giving up the third fewest fantasy points and the fewest total yards per game to running back. So I think they can make your bench. T. Higgins, though, I like him in this one. The last time, Andrew, he played Baltimore last year, he scored 29 fantasy points. So I think T. Higgins could have a decent game in this one. And then that's probably about all I'm targeting from the Bengals in this one.
Just chase the points. There's no way the Bengals score points without Joe Burrow having to do it. Like, think about the way this game plays out. 1, the Bengals keep it close. Who's keeping them close? It is Joe Burrow being an absolute stud early and often and throwing for a ton of yards. Option 2, the Ravens get 3 80-yard rushing touchdowns from Derrick Henry and Justice Hill and Lamar Jackson. And they're down early and they have to throw to get back in it. Yeah. And the Ravens are not great against the pass. They're really good against the run. Fans of the Chase Brown renaissance, I'm with you. I hope it happens. I think we have to consider that we saw a change in utilization because this is the first game last week against the Panthers that the Bengals were actually ahead almost the entire game. And Chase Brown does not play in passing situations because he blocks about as well as I would. And you do not want me blocking for you, Joe Burrow. You will die. So I'm not chasing the Chase Brown thing. Zach Moss, I think, is still the guy.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
Get us on to the next one, AJ.
Alrighty, next we have the Dolphins Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 1. The over-under is 36.5, which is sadly not our lowest for the week. With Devonta Adams being in the news this past week, Tyreek Hill must have gotten bored because he decided to troll fans with kind of throwing some rumors out there that he might not want to be in Miami anymore. But then he quickly was like, nope, this was a joke. I want to stay in Miami. I was just bored and wanted to be entertained.
Attaboy, Tyreek. You do you. The rest of us are just here watching, and we can just skip this game because this is disgusting. I don't want to start anyone, although you probably have to.
There's some player. I mean, Tyreek Hill. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You have to start him. You do. I'm not. We'd have to get multiple, and we're on our way there. Multiple games of Tyreek Hill just completely disappearing before I say bench him. But I got him as like a low-end wide receiver 2, which is just crazy with how good Tyreek Hill's been. I got him as my wide receiver 23 right now. This is bad, though. I do like Devon A-Chain, though, in this one a little bit. I still think he could get something going. He's still playing over 70% of the snaps, so I like him in this one. I'm not playing Waddle, though. I don't think I can do it, Andrew. Maybe a desperation flex, but it's Tyreek Hill and A-Chan for me, and that's about it.
Not in this one. If you're starting Jalen Waddle, you may as well start like, I don't know, Trey Tucker or Justin Watson. You're just
Yeah.
saying, I hope he catches a deep ball, and that is
Yeah.
your only spot. Tyreek
Yeah.
Hill, like you said, that's where it becomes startable. He got 10 opportunities last week.
Yeah.
And I saw him almost turn the corner a lot of times. If Tyreek Hill gets the ball 10 times, there's a good chance he rips off at least one 30-plus yard play, if not more. So that's why he's startable. You can't bank on an explosive play off of 5 touches a game, which is opportunities, not even touches per game, which is what Waddle's getting.
Yeah. On the New England side of the ball, how worried are we about Ramondre Stevenson? I'm a little bit worried. Not so much that he won't get the majority of the work, but the work will be very much split up between him and Gibson, because I don't think Gibson is terrible. I think there's a lot that Gibson can do well. I don't think Ramondre is that much better than Gibson. So I think we start to see a two-headed committee in this one, that the only thing Stevenson had going for him was a ton of volume, because this is a low-scoring offense, over under 36.5. I've got him as a low-end RB2, and maybe only because this game, they are favored. They should get the ball a decent amount, so he should get a decent amount of work, but I'm nervous.
Yeah, this is technically the 5th best schedule-adjusted matchup for Ramondre. I don't think you can start him. If he fumbles, the coach already said he's thinking about benching him before the game starts. And then if he fumbles, he's out. It's like an injury risk is basically what you're dealing with here.
He's got a bad ankle, and it just takes one little misstep and he's out.
He's just got brick hands, and he puts butter all over them. And ironically, Antonio Gibson is the guy who's going to play ahead of him. You guys remember why Antonio Gibson got benched in Washington? Because he couldn't stop fumbling.
I know.
Now he wasn't fumbling this much, but
yeah. All right. We're done, right?
We spent way too much time on that. Other than I had a fun note. Hunter Henry. Remember when he had that 109-yard game?
Yeah.
Every other game combined, he's had 39 total yards. Don't have to consider Hunter Henry anymore.
On paper, it's a good matchup, though.
Stop it. He's going for another 100 yards. AJ, move us on to the next one.
All right. Next, we have the Browns and Commanders. The Commanders are favored by 3. Over-under is 43. And Terry McLaurin is entering, or I guess he's in his 6th year in the NFL and has already had 10 different QBs throw him touchdown passes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say just passes. Touchdowns, I'm surprised with. Yeah, this one, well, let's go to Washington. I was at Cleveland, but I'll switch over to Washington here since we kind of ended there. Well, Andrew, I think we'll go ahead and start Jaden Daniels. I got a bunch of questions this week. Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels, which leads me to believe, like, the people who are asking me these questions, you're not following me. You're not following our advice. We would never have said to draft Josh Allen for one. And if you did, we would not have said to draft him and then draft another quarterback a few picks later. So anyway,
Steven,
what?
I have a league. I drafted Josh Allen, and then I also drafted Jaden Daniels.
What is going on?
What? Okay, so I got Jaden Daniels in round like 14, and I was like, oh, okay, I have to take him so someone else can't use him.
Actually, you know what? I forget about that because he was a rookie. In certain leagues, he could go much later. In leagues I'm in, no chance. Like there's no chance he would go that late. You have to take him in like round 9 at the latest. But okay, if that's the case, then why have you not made a trade, Andrew?
Already gone. Got Jordan Mason for him.
You got who? For which one?
Jordan Mason for Jaden Daniels.
All right, sweet. Okay. Well, so my answer to everybody that asked me which one to start was I didn't give them an answer on who to start. I said trade one of them before Sunday. I'm like, I refuse to answer your question. Your advice is trade one of them.
The answer is definitely Josh Allen.
I don't know if it's definitely Josh Allen, but in this matchup, yes, I would say because they're playing Cleveland, I would say Josh Allen. But Jaden Daniels, he's still my QB3 this week, Andrew. It's a tough matchup, but I don't really care. He's going to run it minimum 10 times. He's got a floor, Andrew, of like 14 points. That's his floor. That's where when the game kicks off and you go, oh, there's 15 minutes left, it shows Jaden Daniels and he's got 13 points. That's what it shows at kickoff. I thought you were about to say something, but
okay, all right. Certified Jaden Daniels doubter at the beginning of the year. I can't doubt what he's done. It's been good. Can we talk about how it's been against the Buccaneers, the New York Giants, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Arizona Cardinals?
No, this is
the thing with Jaden Daniels on film is that when the pass rush gets there, he panics and tries to get run over by a freight train.
No, but he picks up rushing yards.
Risking his life to do so. And there is a freight train that's going to be on the field on Sunday named Myles Garrett, who I think might eat his lunch. This game is one I want to see Jaden Daniels succeed, because what happened was everyone got to watch primetime Cincinnati Bengals. And that's when we saw a utilization change. And he threw downfield more than he had ever done. His ADOT was far higher in that game than it was in any of his other games. It was 5.4 week 1, 4.7 week 2, 9.7 week 3 against the Bengals, and 5.9 against the Cardinals. I think we see it retreat back down. And especially for Terry McLaurin, I don't want to start Terry this week. It's a tough matchup.
Yeah, I don't want to start him either. I have to rank him decently though, because we can't ignore what this offense is doing. I've got him as a back end wide receiver 2. I got him as a wide receiver 21 right now, but I don't feel great about the matchup. So I have got a lot of questions asking Terry McLaurin or this, and I've been answering the other receiver a lot, like the guy going against him, Amari Cooper. I'd much rather start Amari Cooper this week. So
big time.
So the thing is, Brian Robinson doesn't sound like he's going to play.
No.
He's missed both practices so far with that knee injury. I don't know, Andrew, do you know if Austin Eckler is supposed to play? I think he is.
He's supposed to gear up, and that's a man who scored 10 fantasy points in every game he's played in. I had no idea.
What?
In this season, he has scored 10 or more out of his career.
Okay. Really? Well, that is surprising to me. Well, I think he could be startable. The only thing that makes me nervous is Jeremy McNichols, because he looked really good last week, who I forgot was in the league. I don't even know what year he was drafted anymore. Like, I forgot he was still playing football. He actually looked pretty decent last week. That makes me somewhat nervous. So I think only if you're desperate, am I looking to play either running back, because this is a bad matchup. Like, when you look at this, the running backs, it's just a 0. Like, PFF's matchup rating, like Myles Garrett, he's too good. This defense is good. So it's really, for me, is Jaden Daniels, a little bit of Terry McLaurin, and then the rest, I'm not too excited to start.
Schedule adjusted, it's saying it's an okay playable matchup for Austin Eckler. I think off volume, he'll get there. The one thing I can't take away from Jaden Daniels is his legs, and that produces efficient running, and Austin Eckler will take advantage of that. So I actually don't think Eckler is a terrible play. Like you said, I really think Terry should be benched this week. I'm calling an upset and a comeback to earth moment for Jaden Daniels.
Sorry about that, Andrew. My dog is going nuts. I just texted my wife to please let him in as I'm recording outside.
He's just a big Jaden Daniels fan. I'm sorry to your dog.
I know.
I'm calling for it, though.
All right. Let's go over to... I'm excited to talk about this team, though, because anytime a team plays Washington, I get excited to talk about the other team.
This is the first time someone's ever said I'm excited to talk about the Cleveland Browns, other than Jacob.
So I have, you know what? I've got Watson as my QB 15 this week. I think I want to bump him up even more. What's that? Can you hear me?
Never mind. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Watson, like him this week against the Commanders. They're giving up the second most points. They did do, for some weird reason, on the road, slowed down. Like, Kyler Murray couldn't get anything going, so that was surprising. But Cardinals also couldn't really get on the field. They couldn't really stop the Commanders. I think the Cleveland's defense will be able to. So I think Watson's going to get his chances. You saw the post I put up today, right, Andrew, about Watson and Amari Cooper?
Tell me more. I don't think I got around to it.
So I think we talked about it on the text chain, but you saw the holding call last week that negated an 80-yard touchdown to Amari Cooper, correct?
Unfortunately.
Yes. And then in week 1, did you happen to see the 35-yard touchdown that Amari flat out dropped, which would have been an easy touchdown?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So add those, let's just pretend that he does catch it and there isn't holding. Deshaun Watson right now is sitting as the QB 9 and Amari Cooper is sitting as the wide receiver 9. Instead, Deshaun Watson's the QB 18, Amari Cooper's the wide receiver 41. So I feel like people are way too down on these guys. Now, Amari hasn't been great. He has been dropping balls left and right, but I think this is one of those games he goes off. It's just such a good matchup. I'm starting Watson it's hard to start Watson because you probably have better quarterback options. But if you have like Jalen Hurts on bye week and Watson's available, I'm absolutely comfortable throwing him in my lineup. So playing Watson, playing Amari Cooper. I actually even like Jerome Ford a little bit in this one. I just realized Kareem Hunt is still a Cleveland Brown in my season guide, so I'll have to update that. And then I even like Jerry Jeudy as kind of a sleeper pick. This is how bad this the Commanders secondary is, that I'm actually saying start Jerry Jeudy in deeper leagues.
Per NFL Next Gen Stats, they are the second ranked passing efficiency team in the NFL. So yes, you can start all your passing options against them. Deshaun Watson, fun fact, second most dropbacks per game in the NFL, averaging 45. I am terrified to do it. He's never passed for 200 yards this year, so that's scary, but he's been getting points anyway. So I think this is a very startable spot for him, especially guys on bye weeks.
I have to see what his prop line is for passing yards this week, if it's still in the 100s, because he has been bad.
Yeah, you got to pass for 200 yards one time, Deshaun. Do it. Speaking to do it, AJ, next one, pretty please.
Alrighty. Next, we have the 2-2 for the shoe Super Bowl contender Colts. Can't not be Super Bowl contenders if you're beating the Steelers versus the Jaguars. Jaguars are favored by 3. Over under is 46.5. And guys, Trevor Lawrence is 23rd right now in passing yards during the year. And you definitely saw me get vocal with Jacob in the offseason with me thinking Trevor Lawrence might be in trouble. What are you guys' thoughts on his poor performance?
I have a lot of thoughts. One, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson, get yourself out of town. Get a ticket. Get out of there. Please let him be. Trevor Lawrence, also, you're playing like garbage. Like, this is absolutely awful. Figure yourself out. Get a haircut, young man.
Yeah, do something to like mix it up. I would start with the haircut, Andrew. I'm not anti-long hair, but something's got to switch. He needs something to switch it up. I actually like Trevor Lawrence this week, though. If it's ever going to happen, sorry, Andrew, it's against your Colts. They're giving up a ton of fantasy points. I believe it's the 4th most in the league. So I think at home, if he's going to do it, I think this is the week. I still can't rank him that high, but I don't mind him. Oh, Jacob said Kyle Pitts already cashed on the second play of the game. Well, that's good news. Oh, I'm excited. The Kyle Pitts stat just popped up.
I'll look into this.
And then Travis Etienne, though, are you just terrified of him right now, Andrew? Because I'm a little bit terrified.
Yeah. I mean, the shoulder injury is maybe just a little bit of it this week to scare me. I kept saying, I started saying week 1, Tank Bigsby is a better running back right now than Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne actually has never really looked phenomenal. He just goes in a straight line really fast. He had that season or a couple seasons ago where he talked about catching footballs. He's like, yeah, I just get really scared when a guy's near me. And you just see that on the field. And, buddy, you just can't say that. And what's unfortunate is the only thing the Colts are good at stopping is the run. So you're not going to get efficient runs off the Colts. And if he's not going to get volume because Tank's stealing him, Etienne, I'm selling dynasty shares of Etienne. I don't like it at all.
I don't think anyone's buying, though, Andrew, unfortunately.
If they show him the points he's scored in his last few seasons, and this season he's still scoring points.
Yeah,
it just looks terrible.
Yeah. But I think this could be, well, maybe you sell him after this game because I think he could put in a good performance in this one. I got him as a high-end RB2 in this one just based on matchup. Colts giving up the most touches per game and the 6th most total yards per game. So I think he's still startable in this one. Brian Thomas is looking like a stud. I think is he the wide receiver 15 on the year? I think I heard that.
He's been incredible.
Yeah, he's been great. Fire him up. Got him as a wide receiver 2 back end this week. And Christian Kirk, I think he's going to have those games like he did last week. And I think this week could be another one of those. So fire him up. Please, Evan Ingram, can you please come back? I mean, I'm saying start a lot of Jaguars right now. I do get nervous now having Ingram come back, but I want to start him. The tight end's been so bad this year. I was high on Evan Ingram. If he plays, you got to start him. It's such a good matchup for tight end against the Colts. You got to play him.
Think back to week 1 when we saw Stephon Diggs on like negative air yards having a really good game. He was playing a really similar role to what we'll probably see Evan Ingram play this week. And the Colts also are bad at stopping the deep pass. Intermediate passes, weirdly okay at stopping. They can't stop it short. They can't stop it deep. And this team loves to throw deep, both the Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas. And man, watching Brian Thomas weeks 1, 2, and 3, you saw an athletic rookie with a lot of potential. He played with some swagger against the Houston Texans. I like what I see. I think a star is blooming. Buy into Brian Thomas.
Yeah, Andrew, he went in the 2nd round of our dynasty draft, and I tried so hard to trade back up into the early 2nd. I just could not. My brother would not budge off that spot. He ended up drafting him. Or no, did he? I don't know if he ended up drafting. He did, but I feel like he traded him away for a bad. I think he did, but I was trying desperately.
in his DMs. I think he might have
I
gotten
know.
overstimulated and overwhelmed, and then
Yeah.
just took in the player.
I know. I'm bummed about that because now he's worth more than that. But I digress. Moving over to the Colts. Andrew, I'm playing Anthony Richardson if I drafted him. You have to this week. Jacksonville, they are basically like the Commanders. If you've got an offensive player, play them against the Jaguars. They're giving up the most fantasy points to the quarterback position, the second most passing yards. Not like Richardson's passing for a ton anyway, but it's good to see that. If he can run, pass, if he can just stay on the field, he's going to be a QB1 this week. I'm playing Michael Pittman. I'm even, like I told you, in one league, a deeper league, I'm considering Josh Downs. I think he could be started in this one. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think he's going. He hasn't practiced yet. I would be shocked if he goes. If you're in a really deep league, I think you could play Trey Sermon, but you'd have to have some injury concerns or really bad roster options to want to throw him in.
I think you can play Trey Sermon. The Jags are just, like you said, bad at stopping everything, and the Colts are very dedicated to running the ball a crap ton because, well, if Anthony Richardson's playing, are they going to throw the ball? No, not well. Fun fact, schedule adjusted, these are the top two matchups for defenses or for opposing quarterbacks, the Jags and the Colts. So I think this could hit the over if it doesn't get too ugly. For people with Michael Pittman, he becomes a wide receiver 2 for me in this matchup because it's so good. Last week we saw AR. I guess he just plays better in games he gets hurt because he looked really freaking good on the first 2 drives. This man has the yips, looked terrible weeks 1, 2, and 3. This game, he looked good. AJ and I were watching together. AJ a Steelers fan, me a Colts fan, and he had Michael Pittman had 2 catches and 60 yards from AR. He had 4 catches for 53 yards from Flacco. So if Flacco's in, if Richardson doesn't go, you can put Michael Pittman as a wide receiver 1 because it's just guaranteed it's going to hit. If AR is in, it's that 2 for 60 yards, 2 catches for 60 yards. You can see that explosiveness again. That's why amidst all of this, me telling you Anthony Richardson stinks, Michael Pittman's never a weekly must sit because he could just rip off massive plays.
Yep.
Josh Downs, though, not as excited for him if AR goes. Not enough volume.
Yep.
AJ, I love me some AFC South, but put me on to the next one.
All righty. Next, we have the Bills and Texans. The Bills are favored by 1. Over-under is 47.5, which to me seems kind of low. I feel like even though the Bills only scored 10 last week, this one should definitely be hitting the over this week.
This is a good football game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good game. Bills are favored in this one. So this is like a math problem here. Maybe AJ'd be good at this one. So the Texans giving up the 4th fewest completions per game, the 5th fewest passing yards, but giving up the 5th most passing touchdowns per game. So teams, when they get close to scoring, are finding a way to do it. I think Josh Allen's that type of quarterback that should be able to score against them. He's my QB2 on the week, obviously. And I think he's going to have to play well because I think that CJ Stroud at home should do pretty good. So, like Josh in this one, James Cook's a tough matchup for him. I hope he gets it done in the receiving game, Andrew, because I think this is going to be a tough one. Regardless, Texans are tough against the run and the pass for running backs. So, I've still got him ranked high because he's getting the work and he's on a good offense. But I would temper expectations for Cook in this one. Khalil Shakir, he's banged up. I don't know if he practiced today. I think he missed Wednesday's practice, but I do like him in this one if he's able to go. I don't love the matchup for Dalton Kincaid, but tight end, you got to play him. So anyone else, Andrew, out of this one you're looking to start, or would you disagree with any of those?
I'm going to say you cannot start Keon Coleman. They've been incredibly good, the Texans have, at stopping outside receivers. Where they've been susceptible is throwing more short and intermediate, so I think we could see another good Khalil Shakir game. But what's interesting is the Texans have allowed the fewest yards per attempt to the slot, but they're really bad at stopping the short pass are the Texans. So I don't know how to deal with that because that's usually how that goes. But I don't know. I'm still firing up Khalil Shakir. He's been good. He's been consistent. Josh Allen, fire him up. James Cook, though. Actually, the per next-gen stats, it's not been paying off in fantasy. I'm going to have to look into it. I bet it's a lot of rushing yards, but no touchdowns and no receptions. Texans are 25th in rushing efficiency against them. So that's where Cook feasts. You could see Cook pop off for a 100-yard game, I think, in this one.
Okay. All right. Other side of the ball, Bills have actually been pretty good against wide receivers, but do we care, Andrew?
No, you
No.
start your receivers for the
Yeah.
Texans.
You just start them all. I mean, maybe not Tank Dell. Maybe you sit him and wait for it to actually happen for him. He's a hold though, right, Andrew? You're not dropping Tank Dell, are you?
I'm waiting for the injury to maybe revamp off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. We even had Tank Dell as a buy on our buy episode.
Yep. So yeah, but not starting him, but just kind of waiting. CJ Stroud, obviously starting him. A little bit tougher matchup. Excuse me. Bills giving up the 10th fewest points to the quarterback position.
Fun
But
fact
this
for
is
Stroud against the Bills is this is a specifically matchup. The Bills defense is made to stop Patrick Mahomes and CJ Stroud. Stroud is when he faces a defense that only rushes 4, he has the 5th lowest EPA per dropback. So when teams only rush 4 and are able to get a little bit of pressure and drop everyone, that's where Stroud struggles. Stroud's really good against the blitz and against pressure when he can see where it's coming from and hit the guy who's now open. That's where he's good. That's not here. But that also makes me think it's probably going to be a good Stephon Diggs game because that's where the Bills have been susceptible is in that short passing game, open underneath.
Yep. Doesn't look like Mixon is going to go. I was hopeful he would play this week, but he hasn't practiced yet, so I doubt he goes, which makes Cam Akers maybe intriguing, although I don't know Pierce's status. I think if we're getting another
Pierce
solo
has
game.
not practiced yet.
Okay, so if we're getting another solo game from Cam Akers, I think you can fire him up, Andrew, because this matchup. Now, these are inflated numbers because we have to remember the Bills just played Derrick Henry. So temper those expectations, but I do think he could make a flex play, or if you're desperate at running back, I think you could fill him in. He'll get enough work. I think it's a decent enough matchup for him.
100% agree with all of that. You can run against the Bills. That's your only hope.
And you know what's funny is I keep seeing Dalton Schultz on a lot of these with good matchups. I look and I'm like, oh, Dalton Schultz has a good matchup. And it's just like, ugh. And you normally it's like, oh, CJ Stroud, high powered offense, but the receivers are just too good and getting too much volume that we probably will see some good games from Schultz, but good luck predicting when those will come. And it'll probably be because he scored a touchdown.
Schultz is milk toast. He's the milk a part of this incredible feast that will be this football game. You can leave that one aside.
Yep. Oh,
AJ,
okay.
or do you have another one for this matchup?
No, I
Steven?
was just wondering if we ever could skip one. I think this would be the one.
Let's talk about this one, AJ.
All righty, we have the Raiders taking on the Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 2.5. The over/under is 35.5. And while we might have the lowest over/under of the year, I believe, we have the 2 highest elevation teams playing each other, with Denver playing at 5,280 feet, and Vegas is still half of that at an elevation of 2,190 feet.
I never would have guessed that Vegas is high in altitude.
I thought Vegas was like below sea level.
Parts of Nevada are, but Vegas, I was looking and it says that Vegas is 2,190.
You're right, 2001. It's so close to Death Valley, and I know Death Valley's sub sea level, so maybe I was just mixing that up.
Well, here's your geography lesson. Where you get into the desert, there's usually a mountain range right in front of that where the wind currents will hit the mountains and not be able to get past it. So that's where deserts are always next to mountains. Fun fact, former history teacher. You're welcome.
Love it. All right. This used to be a fun rivalry, guys. Broncos, Raiders. It's not a fun
John
experience.
Madden's getting excited somewhere.
Yeah. I do think I am. You know what? I do want to see what Bo Nix does in this one. It's at home. He just beat Aaron Rodgers.
I don't want to see what Bo Nix does in any game.
I know, but it's a perfect rating according to PFF. They go to 10, but I'm just gonna say it's a 100. But I still don't care. I'm not starting Bo Nix in this one. Maybe Cortland Sutton though. He did actually play pretty well against a good Jets secondary last week. Scored 16 fantasy points. I know because I recommended sitting him. So if he can do that against the Jets, I think he can do even better against the Raiders. So I think you can fire him up. Javonte Williams, I think, he's had 2 games of 10 points. Now, that's his ceiling right now. So it's not anything to get too excited about. But I think there's a scenario where he has a good game. I think it could be against the Raiders. They're giving up the 5th most receptions. If they'll start passing to him consistently, I think he'll get enough to have a decent floor. I still think that the ceiling's not very high, but I think he is actually startable in this one. I've got him as a back-end RB2 right now. And that's it. That's it for the Broncos.
Yeah, it's Javonte. It's Cortland Sutton. And that is it. Javante's utilization is really good. It's actually phenomenal. And
Mhm.
that was the only thing we were afraid of was utilization and backfield share. Well, the Broncos have put together a chemistry equation to make the world's worst fantasy scenario
Yeah.
where their defense is incredible, but their offense is absolutely dog water. So they
Yeah.
never have to play with pace or anything. It's just miserable.
Yeah.
What are your Broncos doing?
Yeah, they're never behind by enough to where they have to pass it on every down and dump it off. They're like,
and there's never prevent defense or something
no.
against them. This is terrible.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, it might be worse. There might only be one guy I'm recommending as a start, and that would be Brock Bowers. I got him as my tight end 5 because you have to play him, but we're not going to have Devontae Adams in this one. Jacoby Myers, if it was a different matchup, I would say him or Trey Tucker, but Denver secondary is good, and not just Surtain. Like this whole secondary is good. So it's Brock Bowers for me, and that is it. I don't even know if Zamir White's playing in this one. If he is, I don't even care. Like,
it doesn't look like it. You can potentially start Alexander Madison if he gets the whole backfield to himself, which they were giving Zamir White everything. So maybe they give Madison everything, and Madison's somehow better than White. White was, I think I talked about it on our trade show, the NIT, their 97th ranked running back on PFF. So it can get better.
I liked how you said that you recommended White as a sell. Like, you would be the greatest salesman. Like, I would hire you instantly, and you'd be peddling draft guides, Andrew, if you could get anything good for Zamir White, because that
Sell
guy
me this
is
pen.
garbage.
We started talking about it. I was like, you should go get Bucky Irving, trade Zamir White and something for Bucky Irving. It got gross. It got X-rated what we were willing to trade Zamir White for.
Yep. All right. Next one, AJ. Come on.
Yeah, please get us far away from this.
All right, next we have the Cardinals taking on the Niners. The 49ers are favored by 7.5. Over under is 49.5. And when I was looking into Brock Purdy's personal life, I saw that he's got a younger brother who is a senior quarterback for the Nevada Wolfpack, and his name is Chubba.
I did Chubba Purdy?
That's what he goes by. His actual name's Preston, but he goes by Chubba Purdy.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's start with the Cardinals, Andrew. Kyler Murray, I'm a little nervous to play him this week. I got to be honest. Now, I think Kyler Murray, he should have had a good game last week against the Commanders, did not. But he's also a quarterback that you think, oh, he's not going to do anything. This is the 49ers, and then he puts up a really good game. So I've got him as a QB 10 this week. Does that feel about right to you?
Yeah, last week was weird. Kyler Murray ran the ball one time. That doesn't happen. No. That's weird. And then also the Cardinals' passing efficiency, they're 10th best in the NFL per next-gen stats. So we just need to see them throw the ball more. I think the Niners will make them do that.
Especially being 7.5-point underdogs in this one, I think they will have to throw a decent amount. So you're still starting Kyler Murray unless, hey, we said to draft Kyler Murray and we said to draft Jaden Daniels. So unless you have Jaden Daniels as your backup, then I think you're still firing up Kyler Murray. James Conner, though I don't care if it's a bad matchup. I have recommended him as a sit many times against the 49ers. It's never worked out. James Conner's he's good. You can play him. Marvin Harrison, play him. Trey McBride, tough matchup. Don't care. Tight end 3 on the week. That's probably about it for my Cardinals.
Start everyone. Chase the points. Marvin Harrison, please do something big again. It's so exciting to see him play. Kyler, I think, will bounce back. Chase this 50-point over-under.
Yep. Other side of the ball, yeah. Niners, start. Anything else?
All of them.
Start them all. Yep.
Are you worried about Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, a little bit, especially if he doesn't do something in this one. I am worried. He feels like he's been a little doghouse, Andrew, from his holdout a little bit. Like, he should have had some good games by now. And now we got Debo back. We got Kittle back. At a certain point, we might get Christian McCaffrey back. Like, I will say I was not as high as consensus on Ayuk. I actually liked Debo better. Now, some of that, I will say, had to do with the holdout. But I just thought he was, and I will say at the beginning of the offseason, I was higher on him. But as I thought more about it, I was like, man, we got to remember this is so many weapons on this offense, and the efficiency, while still will be good, won't be as good. So I'm just holding with Ayuk. I still think he's going to have his games, but I don't think it's going to be very hard for him to reach the ceilings we had hoped for him.
I think he's got to get revved up. I mean, he might be the doghouse because did you see what he wore to practice, Steven? When he was supposed to be wearing his red 49ers practice shirt and his black 49ers practice shorts. He wore red shorts. He went monochrome. He went off the script, and Kyle Shanahan punished him accordingly. Did you hear it? His quote after was like, yeah, I messed up, but it was kind of a weird thing to get really upset about because Kyle was chewing him out. Maybe he gets benched this week. Juwan Jennings, eat again.
I have a feeling it had something to do with something besides the. Listen, Andrew, as somebody who's been married for a long time, it's not about the shorts.
It's never about the shorts. I will point out one more thing. George Kittle, PFF off the charts. This is like the best matchup of the week for any tight end. So Andrew, George Kittle, extra big start this week.
Andrew, it's the same for the wide receiver and the running back. And it's very close for the quarterback. Start your 49ers.
All of them. AJ, we got another good one.
All righty. Next, we have the Packers-Rams. The Packers are favored by 3. Over-under is 48.5. And shout out to you, Toysher, for this fun fact. Last weekend, you told me that Josh Jacobs is the player with the most receptions and not have a receiving touchdown. He's got 202 receptions and no receiving touchdowns.
That's impressive.
I heard that too. I don't know where I heard that, but yeah, it was
all over social media. Very unoriginal by me.
Well, no, I'm not. Hey, I would have brought it up like it was my own thing, but no, I did hear that somewhere. Yeah, crazy, right? It's not like I'm going to expect him all of a sudden catch touchdown passes just because of regression, but this guy is due for a touchdown. Yeah, I think it could happen in this one, Andrew. They are favored. You can run on the Rams. You can pass on the Rams. You can do a lot on the Rams. So he's just got to get close to the end zone, and he should punch one in. So really like Josh Jacobs. Love Jordan Love. Love Jaden Reed. I do think Jaden Reed is still playing over his head right now. I don't think every time I look, I'm like, oh, he must have had like 12 targets. Nope, 6. It's always like 5 or 6 targets. So, and he's averaging 20 yards per reception, and he's averaging like 15 yards per rush attempt. I think those are all. Now he's really good. I don't think he's playing like Tyreek Hill on steroids right now. I don't think that holds up, but I think he'll be fine. I actually still have him ranked very high this week. I've got him as the wide receiver 6 this week. Great matchup. I like him. I like Wicks. I do believe, Andrew, Wicks has taken over the starting job from Christian Watson when Watson is healthy. So if you had him as the number 1 waiver wire ad this week, I liked that. If you have him, I don't think he's a guy that's like, oh, I got him. Now let me try to sell high on him. I think you just ride the wave because I think he's going to be good.
I'm going to walk back my hype. Still great, and I don't doubt the fab. I won't take back any fab I would have dumped on him before. I went back and watched some Wicks film. There's some crazy stats out there about his separation. Yeah, he separates. But every time I watch, the defender just doesn't want to chase him. It's like he's just running to open space, and they're just letting him, and that's where he's catching. His contested catch rate is just horrific. He's kind of got bricks for hands. I had to get off the Dontavian Wicks train. And I told myself this offseason, if Dontavian Wicks is this good, why isn't he playing over like Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson, who's been terrible?
We've seen this happen before with a player like Doubs. I don't think Doubs is awful. And it's one of those things where they don't have a full liability in the receiving room that you have to just, leapfrog. I think they have good wide receivers, so it was hard for him to make a way into the starting lineup. But you got to remember too, Andrew, he was over 2 yards per route run as a rookie. That's still, regardless of what you see on film, that's a good number to be at. So I think it's fine. I wouldn't. I'd give him a chance because he has looked good in my opinion. I haven't probably looked at as much film as you have, but I like it. I like him. Tucker Kraft, I really like him. I got him as the tight end 8 this week. He was another guy you recommended as a waiver wire pickup.
Every week I've been saying his name. I love this guy to South Dakota. Big dude I've been scouting even since college.
Yep. All right. And then the Rams, Kyren Williams, RB3 this week. It's just an average matchup, but Kyren Williams does things on good matchups, bad matchups, and everything in between. So he'll probably get another touchdown. He's got how many games in a row? Like 7 games in a row with a touchdown? Something crazy.
He can't be stopped.
Yeah. He's good at football. Matt Stafford is also good at football. Can't start him, but he'll be good enough to keep this offense afloat. That's probably it for the Rams, though. Maybe Colby Parkinson if you're desperate, because the Packers aren't that good against the tight end. They give up the 7th most fantasy points to the position. But yeah, it's still hard to trust him in your lineup, but I think you could do worse.
Since we've seen Cup go down, we've seen Colby Parkinson have a 22% and a 22% target share in his last 2 games. So that's weirdly working out well. It's not produced much, but That's something you can definitely chase in what could be a really high-scoring game. And yes, to your point, Kyron Williams, we said he can't do this again. They're bringing in Blake Corum so he doesn't have to touch the ball a million times. He has a 77% rush attempt share, an 85% snap share, an 11% target share. You know where the ball is going, Green Bay Packers. If you can't stop them, that's upsetting.
Yep.
Start your studs here. Tutu Atwell. Are you willing to start him? Jordan Whittington?
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, Whittington's not pulling up in my rankings right now. I don't know. Sometimes this happens, Andrew. That's why I do multiple rounds of this, but he's just absent. Like he's got deleted somehow. But I am willing to throw him in. More so Whittington than Atwell. I think both in deep leagues, which I am in some deep leagues. So in some, I'm willing to start him. But in your shallower leagues, I'm probably waiting. Or I'm probably not looking to.
This is the opposite of Wicks. I wish I would have had Whittington higher up on my waiver wire post after seeing the film. He looks really, really good, and mostly because Sean McVay is using him in ways that just make him look so special.
I'd love to see. I think you're right, and I think part of it is I'd love to see these receivers outside of McVay. Like I'd love to see Cooper Kupp outside of McVay, and Whittington and Puka Nacua. I'm not slandering them. I'm not saying they're bad receivers. He's just so creative and so good with them that I think it kind of inflates their actual talent sometimes.
If Whittington's out there, I would go get him. This is the fifth best schedule adjusted matchup that Whittington's going to have against the Packers. I think he could be really in for a big game. AJ, move us on to the next one, please.
Alrighty, Steve, get excited because the Giants have to travel to Seattle this week. The Seahawks are favored. Seahawks are favored by 6.5. Over under is 43.5. And Steve, the Giants have to travel 2,401 miles via air, so even longer drive. But
I was Googling it. Because I wasn't confident, although I should have been. AJ, you remember this kind of stuff. I gave you crap last week for not knowing the mileage to, where did they play? Detroit. But you're on top of it. And this time they don't have to travel. They've been playing good when they have to travel. So I like Seattle in this one a lot. I had Geno Smith. Andrew, you realize I had Geno Smith as a start. I thought he'd play really well. He did. But he could have put up like 50 points in that game. He had so many plays. Like he had the DK Metcalf touchdown called back and brought to like the inch yard line, and then Kenneth Walker ran it in. There was a couple more plays that were right down to the goal line. That's a big part of the reason why Kenneth Walker ended up with 3 touchdowns, 2 of them real short yardage ones. And at the end of the game, I don't know what that center was doing. He just snaps it, and Geno's like, what just happened here? But he still had a great game. Could have been a huge game. He finished as a QB 8. I got him as a QB 12 this week, and I'm wondering if I'm a little too low. Like I might need to bump him up a little bit. I know you are a huge Geno truther. You love Geno Smith. The guy's accurate. He's outside of the rookie Jaden Daniels. He's the most accurate quarterback in the NFL right now. Brian Grubb is doing what we'd hoped. He's just unleashing the ball. Geno is attempting a ton of passes. He leads the league in passing yards. Yeah, you start Geno Smith in this one. I love him. I love Walker, all the receivers. Yeah, play your studs.
I don't think you have to push Geno up because the Giants are what the Texans were a couple years ago before they got Stroud, of good against quarterbacks in fantasy, because no one has to throw the ball against them because they're leading the entire time. Even the Dallas Cowboys weren't even up by that much in that game they played on Thursday night, but they acted like they were because they just knew they didn't have to worry about it. So I don't think you have to pump Geno up any higher other than he's out on waiver wires still. Pick this guy up. I think after this last waiver wire session he got picked up, get him on your team. But this is the Kenneth Walker matchup. The Giants cannot stop the run.
I think there could be a little buy low window on Geno as well, because like I said, he should have had a monster game last week, and it was just kind of one of those fluky. He hasn't thrown that many touchdown passes, but everything else has looked really good. I think this offense is looking like it could take off pretty soon, though. Unfortunately, Andrew, my team in many leagues was looking so good because I have Rashee Rice in a couple of leagues and Malik Neighbors in a couple of leagues, and I'm not gonna have either this week, Andrew, because it looks like that concussion was pretty significant, so we're not going to see Malik Neighbors in this one, which means I love Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, the matchup's not great, but no way he gets out of here without 12 opportunities. There's no way. And if he's going to get 12 opportunities, he's got a little bit of a floor. So I've got him as like a wide receiver 3 this week. Devin Singletary, he's banged up also, so I don't know what the status of him is. It's an okay matchup against Seattle. If he plays, I'm still willing to play Devin Singletary. Hopefully he gets a few dump off passes because they don't have a lot of weapons and options on here. So I'm sitting Daniel Jones. It's kind of just Singletary and Wan'Dale, and yeah.
If the Giants are going to somehow magically move the ball, it's going to be on the ground. I don't think they'll do a great job of it because this is going to be terrible. Don't start a New York Giant if Malik Neighbors does not play in this game. Maybe Singletary if he's there. Don't chase Tyrone Tracy.
What about Wan'Dale? You're not willing to give him? I mean, his ADOT's insanely low, but he's got a decent floor, right?
You can start him because he'll get 10 points, but he's not getting 11. It's going to be all receptions and no yards. 8 catches for 20 yards.
I'm going to quote post you there. Wan'Dale Robinson, he's going to get you 10 points, but he won't get you 11.
It's going to be ugly. But start your studs on the Seahawks side. Do not start a Giant unless you hate yourself. AJ, on to the next one.
Alrighty, we get the Cowboys Steelers Sunday Night Football. The Steelers are favored by 2.5. Over under is 44. And guys, the Cowboys have this player named Zach Martin who has more Pro Bowl appearances with 9 than he does holding penalties, only 7.
Oh my God.
Offensive guard, lives matter. Go you, Zach Martin. Go you.
That's a great stat. That's a great one. Dak Prescott, not a great matchup for him. Now, Dak's he's a hard one to pick each week because he has had a lot of tough matchups. I've got him as my QB 16 this week. So, like, if you're comparing him to like a Geno Smith, I'd rather start Geno. But would I be shocked if Dak Prescott actually puts up a good game in this one? Not really, because I do think he's a good quarterback. So it just kind of depends on your matchup. CeeDee Lamb, obviously you're playing him. That, other than Jake Ferguson, I will play Jake Ferguson because he's a good tight end. Not a great matchup, but don't really care. But it's really just Dak, CeeDee, and Jake Ferguson. I'm not touching the running backs in this one.
No, it's just those 3 big-time guys. And Dak Prescott, you start him if you don't have a better streaming option. It's just gonna be ugly, but volume will hopefully get him there.
Yep. All right. And on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, like the matchup for Justin Fields, I feel like I'm a little too high on Justin Fields. I might pull him back a little bit. Right now I've got him as the QB 6. It's a good matchup. I wouldn't say it's a great matchup, but if he has to keep pace, I'd like to see Justin Fields running around like he did last week. He was one of the recommended starts. Andrew, you had him as one of the top waiver ads, so it was a win-win for us last week. But I do like him this week. I also like Najee Harris a little bit now. Andrew, will he get you 10 but not 11?
He actually might get you 12 this week because the Cowboys can't stop the run. I tried to tell people last week, the Colts do not let you run the ball easily. They make you work for it. He had to get it done in the passing game. This is a team that does not make you work for it to run the football.
Just ask Derrick Henry. So, yeah, I think Najee is in for a decent game in this one. I like George Pickens also. One of these days, we're going to see a good blow-up game from George Pickens. Maybe not this week, but I still like him in my lineups. I'm a back-end wide receiver 2. I don't love the matchup for Freiermuth. Dallas is good against the tight end, giving up the 7th fewest fantasy points, but Freiermuth's getting targeted. He's looking good. He's been decent, and as bad as the tight end position is, I still think he's usable.
I was rattling off stats on the trade show. George Pickens, 13th in target share, 13th in air yard share. He just hasn't caught a touchdown. And I think he'll get some because Justin Fields is playing very good football this year. Start your studs in Pittsburgh. Do not start anyone else. I don't even think there's anyone to tempt you.
Hey, Sorry, keep going.
I was going to say, is Jalen Warren playing maybe this week? Then that could change things up. But no, you start your studs.
Hey, I just thought of something, Andrew. And I don't know if the Steelers would do it. But Miami, why don't you trade for Russell Wilson? Like, I want Justin Fields starting in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh wants him starting. Russell Wilson, I don't think he should be just a backup. I think he could be starting somewhere. Like, he needs to go to Miami.
Schematically, Russell Wilson is the opposite of the quarterback you want to be running the system in Miami. It's because that system is all about throw to the open spot before it's open, and Russell Wilson refuses.
It's very true, but he's got playmakers. All he has to do is get the ball in their hands somehow.
I don't know. Okay, imagine Russell Wilson moonballs to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Then I'm in. All goes 4 verts every play.
I'm sorry. It's better than Tyler Huntley. Like, I think that would you trade a third if you're Miami? Like, you don't want your season to be over in week 4, right? Like, we want to still watch some football here. Go get Russell Wilson. Come on.
Well, Tua could be back. He went out in week 2, so week 3, week 4, week 5. He's close to coming back, and doctors are saying he can.
Okay, if I don't see, like I said though, if he's not wearing a Guardian cap, maybe even 2 of them. If he's not got 2 double Guardian caps on, you trade for Russell Wilson immediately.
Put him in Saran wrap. It doesn't matter. Protect that man, because man, I'm tired of watching Snoop Hundley and Skylar Thompson.
Yep.
AJ, we got one more.
All right, capping off this week, we have the Saints Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 5.5. The over-under is 43.5. And I know a few years ago it came out that Mahomes really loves his ketchup, even saying that he likes his ketchup on his steak. But what might be even grosser than that, and I'm sorry if either of you two do this, but this is just absolutely heinous, is he likes ketchup on his Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah, I kind of want. I kind of want to trade him. I've got him in the Superflex Dynasty League, and that might be that might put it over the top. Turkey does not go with ketchup. It ruins the why don't you just would you put ketchup on your steak? No, that's just ridiculous. But I do like the guy. I don't know what to think with Mahomes right now, because at any moment I think we could see him put up a big game. But I also it doesn't feel like he's gonna have huge games this season. It feels like defenses are not letting him get those big plays, and he has to dink and dunk, and it's not been the this high flying offense like we're used to seeing. I've got him as my QB 13 this week. It's just hard to rank him any higher than that. He's not going to return value on where he was drafted, especially with Rice out. And so you're probably starting him, but it kind of depends on your options. Travis Kelce, though, with Rashee Rice out, I like him a lot. I think Kelce, he's not going to be the Kelce of old, but he's going to be better than he's been. So I like Kelce. Worthy, I mean, you kind of have to rank him, Andrew, as like a high-end wide receiver 3. But the volume, it's never going to be super high. He can do so much with so little. So it just takes one play for him to return value, but he's not gonna step in and be Rashee Rice. And then the running backs, I still think it's going to be a headache. Kareem Hunt, who I currently have as a Cleveland Brown in my season guide, so I got to get that updated. But he is banged up right now. He was getting all the work last week, so I'm not surprised he's banged up. The guy probably isn't in game shape, but if he's playing, it's really hard to trust any of these Chiefs. If he's not playing, I kind of like P. Ryan in this one.
You can start Kareem Hunt. He's got to be the guy there. Carson Steele, I dropped him in leagues. I was really hoping that Gator Boy would be exciting and do something for us. It's just not going to happen. Fun fact on Patrick Mahomes and why we feel so sad about him. He ranks 16th in dropbacks per game, and he ranks 43rd in average depth of target per game. That's not going to be fantasy happiness. But one guy who is going to be happy in fantasy is probably Travis Kelce again. We had him as a buy. We didn't think this would be why he'd be a good buy, but he has to catch the football because no one else there can do it.
Now, what about Juju? Do you have, Andrew, his maybe we'll get the full picture this week. Is he the guy, or is it going to be Watson? Like, who steps up and gets more of that slot role for the wide receivers?
It's 100% Juju. Justin Watson is a one-trick pony, run down the field, catch the ball deep. That's why we haven't been seeing him this year, because they brought in Worthy to do that just way better. So, yeah, it's going to be Juju. Remember he caught that touchdown?
Yeah.
He said he got a breather for Rashee Rice. He ran that route. Juju was fine when he was with Kansas City. A wide receiver 3.
Too. He was
wide receiver 2 even?
I think he finished 24th overall, but to your point, he's probably points per game. He was probably a wide receiver 3. I think Juju, like I have a bunch of Chiefs in our Dynasty League. I might target him as just kind of you're not getting Rashee Rice, but you might get some decent games out of him. I think he'll be decent. He's played in this offense before. He's not a good receiver, but he can do what they're asking him to.
If you get into some weeks where injuries hit you plus bye weeks and you have Juju, you can do a lot worse than Juju Smith. Would you rather start Juju or Xavier Worthy?
I still am going to go Worthy. I'd rather play him. I get the Juju's going to get all the easy stuff, but he can't do anything with it. So, he'll catch it, get tackled. If he's in the end zone, great. But with Worthy, he can he's picking up 10 yards after the catch every time he gets it. So, and I do hope there's also the thing of we don't have Rice now. We're going to have to manufacture more work to Worthy. Still not going to add up to 10 targets a game, but maybe it goes up a couple more opportunities, and I like that.
It's kind of like what we said with Tyreek Hill. If you just get a certain amount of touches to Xavier Worthy, there's going to be games where he breaks something wide open.
Yep, exactly. Other side of the ball, Alvin Kamara, it's a tough matchup for him. Chiefs are very good against the running back position. Doesn't matter. Just temper expectations for Kamara. Derek Carr at Kansas City, that doesn't feel like a game I want to play Derek Carr. So he's probably on my bench. It's not a great matchup for the wide receivers either, but you really can't bench either one of them. Chris Olave is still getting a ton of volume. He's really good at football. Rashid Shaheed's actually getting a lot of volume. He's also really good at football. So you got to play both of them. So I saw something pop up today with Taysom Hill that he's dealing with cracked ribs. Is this from the previous game, do you know? Or is this from this last game that he just played in?
It happened in this last game, I do believe.
Okay, so I don't know if he's going to play. It's funny, though. You can never look at Taysom Hill and look at the Chiefs are giving up the most fantasy points. They're giving up the most receptions. They're giving up the most receiving yards. Oh, but it's Taysom Hill. With Taysom Hill, you're there for the experience. You're there for he's going to run it in from the 5-yard line like he did. Does he do it twice last week? I think he had 2 of those. Regardless, if he is playing, I'm not playing him. Not against Kansas City.
If you ever want to ride the lightning and see if the Mormon Menace can get in the end zone, go for it. I will never knock it. If you just look at your tight end list and you go, Zach Ertz, you, no thank you. Mike Gesicki, you, no thank you. And you want to ride Taysom Hill, do it. Don't let it stop you.
He will get you what's his? We know, we've got the Wan'Dale Robinson 10, or with Taysom it's 0. Well, it's not always 0 because he usually gets you at least 1 rushing attempt, but it's 1 or potentially 27.
He ain't finishing middle ground. It is go big or go home for Mr.
Yes.
Taysom Hill. He love him.
Yeah. He closes his eyes. He swings hard.
Attaboy, Taysom Hill. That is the way to play football. And man, it looks like we got ourselves a nice little ball game between the Falcons and the Buccaneers.
I was just about to check.
That prop that Jacob was talking about was a big 30-yard catch from Mr. Kyle Pitts, and we've already got touchdowns going back and forth.
Oh.
We dig this.
Yes, I can't wait to click off and start watching that game.
Then I get to go victory lap Drake London to Jacob's face again.
Did he get a touchdown?
Yep. Already got a touchdown. Already got 3 catches. You hear me, Jacob? I was right. At least for now. We'll let it ride. But thank you guys for tuning in to the Fantasy Guides podcast. There is every single matchup of the week except for Thursday night. But we did them all. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for loyally showing up. We've seen the page grow infinite amounts this year. It's been incredible. Please keep tuning in. Get a weekly season guide if you want all the stats that we are referencing and more. If you don't want to listen to us talk, go get you a season guide for less than the price of a large pizza and just eat up those stats. Follow our page on Instagram, X, TikTok, everywhere at Fantasy Guides. I'm Andrew Toyser. That's Stephen Rippey. That's AJ Cleaver. Say goodbye to the friends at home.
Good luck, guys.
Everybody.